Hi guys, and welcome to another edition of Technoholik, where we promise you nothing else than a power-packed show every single week, and this week is no different. With me to take us through all the technology in the show are the guys Sagar Gokhale and Varun, who's joining us in the studio today. So first things first, let's give you a sneak peek. Take a look at what's coming up on the show today. This week on Technoholik, money and great tech always go together. We get you some awesome weekend picks. As usual, technology is a world that's ever changing. We wrap up the news of the week. But up first, have watches become the next all-in-one device? Check out our gadget pick of the week. Okay, since we promised you a power-packed show today, we thought we'll not just give you one gadget of the week. This time we have actually 3 gadgets of the week, all in the same category, and none of these guys are going to talk about it. Our resident technoholic, Abhimanyu Radhakrishnan, who's actually not even sitting by in Delhi. He's in a very humble location, as he calls it, and he's telling us about watch phones. So before we go to Abhi, watch phones, guys, concept that is going to be, I don't know, will we like it, not like it?
Dick Tracy? No, it's never going to happen. I mean, it's just too old a concept. It's not going to work, and it's just too cumbersome to do all of that stuff. No, I don't think that's a successful concept.
Sagar, successful concept or not?
Gimmick, yes, good fun to show off in front of people, saying that hey, I've got a cool watch which can make phone calls. Practicality? I don't think so.
Nada. No. Okay, so is it fun or is it practical? Abhi is going to tell us just that, with not 1, not 2, but actually 3 watch phones. Check it out.
Thanks guys, it does feel good to be back on the show, though not in that fancy studio of yours, something more humble for me. But that's about all that's humble out here, because the gadgets I'm going to show you are pretty much more awesome than what you guys have out there. And speaking of this, gadget ego, the first gadget arms race that I can remember being in is when maybe I was 8 or 9 years old, and digital watches were still a big deal in India at that time, still pre-liberalization. So I got my first digital watch with an alarm and stopwatch, went to school and flaunted it, but there was another guy who had the calculator watch. You know, when I got that after a couple of years, by then those Timex Indiglo ones had come out, and you just couldn't keep up with the coolest new digital watch out there. But speaking of which, I just realized for almost a decade or maybe even more, I haven't been wearing a wristwatch, because hey, when you've got a smartphone that tells you the time, why would you need one more thing to put on your wrist, unless you want to do it for purely, fashion reasons, which I didn't. But finally now there is a reason for all us Dick Tracy fans and geeks to get that dream gadget. The LG watch phone has finally launched in India. It has some model number GD710, P910, something like that. I don't remember. It's flashing on your screen. But it's basically the LG watch phone. Search for it online. You get better deals at some of these online stores compared to the MRP. I saw some deals for even 40 grand, whereas the MRP on this is officially 49 grand. Yes, it is expensive, but the build quality is fantastic. Just watch out for your wrist size. It may have to be adjusted a little bit. It's not a strap, it's just one of those clamping watches. Worked well on my wrist though. Screen a little big, but once you put it on, it is just fabulous to use. You can scroll. It's a touch screen, so it gives you that cool feeling of being able to change watch faces from these different themes. A contact book, even web browsing technically, though you won't want to do it on that tiniest screen. But most importantly, you can dial numbers and make calls, either connected via Bluetooth to the Bluetooth headset that comes along with the phone in the box itself, or just use the speakerphone in Dick Tracy style. Hello, hello, check, over and out. And you don't have to actually keep it this close to your ear. This phone does the job from about here. But anything further than that, you just can't hear it really, really clearly. My only issue with such an expensive phone is that I'm going to be washing hands, a few drops of rain, sweat maybe. I'm not so sure how good the water resistance on this one is. I certainly didn't want to try out experiments on this expensive demo unit that LG sent us. So water resistance, my only issue with this phone, and of course price. Hey, they've even got a front-facing camera, so once video calling does become legal in India on 3G networks, even that will be an awesome feature to have. All in all, the LG watch phone is pretty amazing, unless you are put off by that price tag. And like all things these days, just go and look for the Chinese OEM equivalent. Just go to 20north.com or eBay or India Times Shopping, any of these sites. Just have these generic watch mobile phones. 5,000 bucks only does pretty much the same thing as this. But of course, there is a catch. The touch screen is nowhere as good. In fact, they've even put this tiny Jugaad stylus into there where you have to tap at the phone in case you can't get the touch right. So that's quite cute. But at least it does the basic things such as calls. It's even got the spy camera on the side so you can put it on your wrist and shoot somebody. And the problem is I can't put this phone on to show you right now because I've used it for 2 weeks and like a lot of this OEM stuff, it just went bust after that. So I'm going to try and return it and get a refund, but not completely dependable, these Chinese watch phones. So those are phones with SIM cards built in, but if you just want to go for pure style and impress people with a watch and you don't really want a phone on your wrist, then the Apple iPod Nano is actually the best watch out there on the market. You can just put the Nano like this one. It is a Nano, see, that's the Apple logo there. You can just clamp it into one of these many watch attachments available from a number of brands. This particular one is called Lunatic. It was one of the hottest selling products earlier in the year because the guy actually raised money online with just a design idea, and lots of people like me paid the cash upfront, back in December and got our watches by, say, February. So pretty cool, looks pretty nice as well. You can match it to the color of your Nano. The strap quality on this one is great. The only problem is that the Nano doesn't have Bluetooth built in, so either you have to be a dork and put earphones where the wire is dangling on your wrist, or you can be a geek like me and shell out another $100 to the 10 grand that the Nano costs and about $50 that the watch strap costs, and put in a Bluetooth adapter to then listen to make your Nano into a Bluetooth transmitting music device and then put on a Bluetooth headset and listen to it. So not a very aesthetic looking option, but just the phone alone, you have a multi-touch watch on your wrist, the Nano shifts like that as well. It is, I think pretty awesome. But there's still one more watch out there in the market which I don't have with me because that serves as a beautiful companion to your Android phone. I think Varun Singh has one. Varun, what did you think of the watches that I had? And I'm going to ask Sagar to answer that because he's the watch geek. But first, you want to show us your Sony Ericsson Live View?
Yes, Abhi, this is the Sony Ericsson Live View you've been talking about. It's basically a tiny little display that sits on your wrist. I haven't got the wrist pad right now, but basically this is a watch which can also be converted into a little tie clip if you want or anything else. And it's quite a weird thing because at the end of the day, it doesn't really have anything but a remote control functionality built into it. You can't take phone calls with this. You can't just put it to your ear or do any of the other things. It doesn't have a speakerphone or anything like that. It's just a remote control for your phone. So it'll show you things like who's calling, what SMSs came, which mail was the most recent and that kind of stuff. And there's one cool little plugin which is available which also allows you to rewind and forward songs on your phone. But there's two things which are wrong with that.
Okay.
One is that this is actually very poor as far as battery life is concerned, even though it does so little. The second thing is that the functionality, though it can be expanded with plugins and everything else, is still sort of subpar with anything which is not a Sony Ericsson phone. Because what happens is there's the Bluetooth connection which is between this and the phone, it keeps breaking off again and again. It's a good concept, but that's pretty much all it is. It's a concept, it's not a functional device. I really wouldn't recommend anybody to buy it, even though I spent almost $50 buying this and then $30 probably shipping it from the UK to India.
What did you think of the 3 watches? Actually, 2 watch phones and 1 iPad Nano which cannot do any phone calls.
Yeah, actually see, watch phones as a concept, like Varun said, it is a bit of a gimmick, okay? So I don't think all the functionality which you have on your phone can be converted to a watch or to a display that size. See, the manufacturers which are attempting to do this are not so cool, so that's why you're seeing rates like $50 and stuff. I would be more interested in if players like Tag Heuer and Rolex start making watches with inbuilt phone functionality
But that's
in
the
it.
thing, their coolness factor lies in the fact that they make analog things.
Yeah,
It's analog, it's not digital. So
that's what I'm trying to
say.
say. From a watch fanboy, I mean, a guy who loves watches, I would like to see one of these brands to come out with a great watch which also has great phone capability or even can store data, and maybe if you touch a screen and the movie plays out or something like that. But right now, I don't think so.
Okay, watch phones as a concept, it's not there yet because it's just not practical enough, but geeks that we all are, it's still very, very cool to have it on your wrist, so we are in support of the concept. And that brings us to the end of this segment, but in the next one, all the news of the week and of course our weekend pick. Stay tuned.